It's 900 hours and this is Media Monitor, the biggest news review program on a Sunday morning. I am Alicia Jali. Here's what's making news headlines this hour. SABC COO Hlaudi Motsoeneng has been cleared of all charges against him by disciplinary inquiry. Motsoeneng was charged with gross dishonesty relating to his matric certificate, gross misconduct and abuse of power relating to the unfair dismissal of 6 senior staff members. The inquiry heard the heads of arguments from both sides over the last few days. SABC lawyers call for the dismissal of Motsoeneng, while the defense maintained that the broadcaster had not made its case. The newly elected ANC chairperson in the eThekwini region, Zandile Gumede, has committed the new regional leadership to lead the process of uniting the region. She said this when she closed the regional conference after her election earlier this morning. Gumede says the new leadership has a responsibility to restore ANC values by healing the wounds caused by contestation. She also urged party members to play a role in ensuring unity in the region. Well, Zimbabwe says it will set a 2016 deadline for foreign companies to comply with black empowerment. Closing the ruling ZANU-PF's party's annual conference yesterday, President Robert Mugabe said the 51% local ownership rule will apply to mining companies. The law has been blamed for driving away foreign investment, and President Mugabe told party loyalists that the country would not relax its policies in order to improve foreign relations with the West. Doctors Without Borders say the death toll from the U.S. assault on its hospital in Kunduz has now risen to 42 after an investigation that included looking through the rubble for human remains. Authorities have identified the dead as 14 staff, 24 patients, as well as 24 relatives of patients. At the same time, the United Nations Assistance Mission has concluded that the total civilian death toll in the battle for Kunduz was 289. The U.S. is set to release its internal investigation of the hospital attack and has provided no information about responsible parties or possible disciplinary action. The head of the environmental group Greenpeace, Kumi Naidoo, has criticized the new climate deal reached in Paris, saying it is not sustainable to reach the goals needed to combat climate change. Nearly 200 countries took part in tense negotiations in the French capital over 2 weeks, striking the first deal to commit all nations to cut emissions. The agreement, which is partly legally binding and partly voluntary, will come into being in 2020. All right, let's now have a look at some of the front pages of our Sunday newspapers. There's the Sunday Times, and it's leading with the headline on ex-Finance Minister Nhlanhla Nene saying he acted in the interest of the country when he took on SAA chairwoman. That's the City Press, and it's leading with a story about the panic in cabinet as ministers fear they are next in line after the president's sacking of Finance Minister Nhlanhla Nene. The Sunday Independent leads with a story about President Zuma's talks to appease upset alliance partners over sacking of Minister Nhlanhla Nene. And that's the Weekend Argus, and it's leading with a story with about the same headline as the Sunday Independent and the Sunday Tribune, of course, about the president's crisis talks with his tripartite counterparts. That's the Sunday Tribune, also dealing with the same story about the president's talks with alliance partners. A very good morning and welcome. My guest this morning, let's give a very warm welcome to the Deputy Minister of Agriculture and Forestry and Fisheries, Mr. Bheki Cele. And of course, we will be discussing the impact of the drought scourge that has hit South Africa. It's an honor to have you on the program. So a very good morning to you.
Honored to be invited. Good morning to you and the listenership.
All right, thank you so much. Well, South African livestock and crop farmers were severely hit by the drought, which left them more destitute. Although little rainfall has started pouring this summer, farmers say it is not enough to break the current drought the country is experiencing. The government has declared 5 provinces disaster areas for agriculture. Let's take a look at this insert compiled by reporter Silo Tatai in the Northwest.
A severe drought showing no mercy to either man or animal. Farmers first got rid of their livestock. They are now selling equipment and some even their land.
The banks and the agricultural companies will have to look at rescheduling of the debt to see if they can find a way so farmers can pay back their debt over a longer period of time. Otherwise, there will be a liquidation of farmers to a great extent as far as their assets are concerned.
Crop farmers are waiting with bated breath. The planting season has arrived, but thousands of hectares of land are lying fallow. Some have incurred huge losses.
I've been getting less than 15 to 20 tons of sunflower, which is very bad. Because for 75 hectares, you get over 50 to 60 tons of sunflower. So it has been really, really, really bad.
The drought has already impacted food production.
The report about imports from Grain South Africa is that the net import should be around 300,000 tons for the year. But that could escalate, of course, all depending on what happens in the next 2 weeks.
Food production is further compromised by more farmers quitting. Selotatai, SABC News, Mahikeng.
Deputy, once again, thank you so much for joining us. Such worrying visuals. Let's talk about that. What do you think about what we've just seen now?
Indeed, it is quite a worrying picture. Nationally so, I understand that 5 provinces have been declared, but that doesn't mean that other provinces are having it easier. There would be areas here and there on other provinces that are not declared. The Northwest, Free State and Mpumalanga to a certain extent are our maize baskets. So you kill the maize there, you are forcing the import. So definitely we'll have to import the maize in a big, big way. But beyond that is a stock. One place that is not mentioned there that is severely hurt is northern KZN. It has been dry for a very, very long time there. The stock is dying, but that is still alive, is sold in a minimum bear kind of price, and is a big, big loss for those people that they sell it even before it dies. As you have said, there are a little bit of rains that have come. They have come late and too little. And the other awkward part of the rains, they're most on the coast, and that makes your rivers not get full because it needs to rain in the inland. But there is a little bit, very little bit, is a low rain and a high heat. Even that rain that comes is immediately taken by the heat and the heat waves that are happening in the country. The situation is on the desperate side.
Deputy, let's talk about those 5 provinces. Were they part of the imbizos that you finished on Thursday? Tell us about those imbizos. What was happening on them?
The imbizo is a separate issue, Alicia. Let's start maybe specific. What has the government tried to do with the drought? The president has formed the IMC, that is interministerial committee that is specifically looking at the drought situation because it is reaching the crisis situation. Is headed by the Kokta minister, Pravin Gordhan. My minister sits on that. The water sits on that, the environmental, social development and all that. Quite many sitting there. So they were trying to pull together the resources. What can we do to deal with the situation? Well, the resources that I know, they were pulled from my department, that is Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries.
Yes.
we've got money called CASP, that is Comprehensive Agricultural Support Program. So it supports farmers, especially small farmers where they are, but we had to pull 20% of it to come and see, especially the stock farmers, to get some lucerne, that is a feed, to see if we can move water and all that. That has been 266 million, trying to put together that money and see what can we do. Other departments have put. So it's not very true that you hear people saying government hasn't done anything. It's a VA is quite big, but the government has been trying to pull on those things. That's what has happened up to this far. And provinces themselves have been trying to put money, others 10 million, others 15, others 26, and all that kind of stuff. So it's national and provinces putting together. We're trying. Surely it cannot be enough. It's severe drought, but the government is trying to do something.
Tell us about how you affect them, then, Deputy, all these projects. I understand you've reserved money from the different stakeholders, but then how are you rationing it out to help out all the farmers in the country?
Let's admit, we are trying to start with the small holder and the small farmers, because I saw your insight. While those are big guys, they need assistance. Absolutely. But there are those that are much smaller. If you have 20 head of cattle and they're all wiped out, and you say you have sent to school 4 of your graduates in the house to throw this stock, and the whole 20 is wiped out, is more severe. I agree. Everybody must be assisted, but definitely you start with the small guys, with those that they plan to eat, and those that they keep the stock for family livelihood and all that kind of stuff. But everybody has been brought together. I'm quite satisfied with the way the government has tried, especially provincial governments, dealing with their big farmers, commercial farmers, and the small farmers.
Very interesting you mentioned that, Deputy, because there was an outcry from the big farmers saying that government is not necessarily giving them any assistance. So you're trying to work from the back to the front. What is behind that initiative?
It should be so. It should be so. It's unfortunate that the small guys would not get the space on TV to speak about themselves. And most of the cattle you see lying there, the skeletons, are from the small farmers, your northern KwaZulu-Natal, and the Limpopo, your Limpopo. So small guys. But surely we are trying to work from, as you say, from back to front, which will help the small guys and going up there. So they've got the level of dealing with the banks, the bigger guys. They would deal with your land banks.
They're not so desperate, in other words.
I don't want to say so. I don't want to say so because I have seen the trouble, especially on the crops, on the maize. Is going to take them a lot of money trying to work on that. So I don't want to say they're better off.
It's not urgent, just as yet. You're right. We're going to continue shortly after the short break. Do stay with us.
Breaking news. Clientele is giving more back to our clients. In fact, we are giving it all back.
Yes, all your premiums, every single cent you ever paid, on top of your payout amount in cash, tax-free.
Yes, you heard right. Our new Clientele Ultimate Dignity Plan pays all your premiums back.
This is a South African first. No one has ever offered you this before.
Yes, we've been offering you affordable and convenient plans for more than 22 years. You have made us the people's brand. And now, we are the first to pay you all your money back.
It's affordable. Plans start from only 120 Rand per month.
SMS Dignity to 47025 and we'll call you back. Let's recap. We offer a range of funeral plans for you and your family. All plans include up to 50,000 Rand individual cover and up to 250,000 Rands family cover. Pays within 24 hours. 200 Rand free airtime when you claim, a grocery, unveiling, and transport benefit. Access to a 24-hour funeral helpline. Family plans also include cover for 3 of your children at no additional cost. This is what you've come to expect from Clientele.
But now, the Clientele Ultimate Dignity Plan will also pay you all your premiums back upon death. Desmond, everyone is asking, how is it possible for Clientele to pay back all the money?
In short, we are rewarding you for paying your premiums. So as long as you keep paying, it's not money for nothing. Clientele have very skilled professionals who know how to create value. This is why we're able to pay all your money back. The Clientele Ultimate Dignity Plan.
The only funeral plan that pays you everything back.
SMS Dignity to 47025 and we'll call you back.
To all women that have suffered the way Riva suffered, we are here for them. This thing of killing of women and children, it must stop. It is bad.
The boys, they must respect their sisters, their friends, the girlfriends, and the mother especially.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, I'm joined in studio by the Honourable Mr. Bheki Cele. You can also share your views on our discussion on our social media page at SA Media Monitor. General, let's talk now about COP21. I know you were supposed to have gone there and it's taken quite some time to reach an agreement. Do you think that any resolution that's going to come back from there is going to directly affect the output that you have as a department going into 2016?
Alicia, at least just to reach some form of agreement is a step forward.
After a day.
After a day, what you remember that this is 21. The discussions that were there come from 17, COP17 in Durban. There have been others, Qatar and others, where there were no agreement. They were trying to deal with this segment of Durban, but by the time 5 years ends, they have done. I would congratulate, especially the South African delegation led by Minister Edna Molewa. They've really contributed big time. For the fact that they've reached this 100 billion a year. My fear, I see Kumi is up in arms. Kumi Naidu, a young boy from Durban. So my fear is a forcibility. That people, they go there as volunteers. So volunteers, today you are there, tomorrow you are not there. I would have loved that they've come with a forcibility mechanism. That's what they call legal framework, that this shall happen. But it has been a step forward. Enough? No.
Let's talk now about the revitalization of agriculture and the agro-processing value chain. What is that project all about?
That is the second point from the nine-point plan by the president, revitalization of agriculture and agro-processing. Agriculture is a world edge of development, not South Africa. All over the world, you must talk about agriculture, and everybody talks about agriculture going forward. Remember, I don't want to talk about other departments, but other minerals, whether your gold or diamond, it doesn't grow. You get it, it's gone. Agriculture will come back time and again, and you can develop. But the other thing, this revitalization, in the year 2050, there will be 9 billion people in the world. Today, we are 7.4 billion. Jeez. And the world is not growing. It's only the population. The same world, the same space, will have to give food to those 9 billion. So every day you must find the new ways of dealing with agriculture. Revitalization is part of that. Bring young people. In South Africa, the average farming community is 62 years. Obviously, more white, more Afrikaner, because of historical reason. So you need to bring young people, especially the Africans, to be part of that new wave of farming. That's part of revitalization, creating the new economy, and making sure that the young people, they fall in love with agriculture. Yes. They stay out there, they get the land, they work at the land. But let me say, we've got several young people that are sponsored by agriculture. They're in universities doing masters. I've got 2 that I know that are doing PhD on forestry, because forestry...
So the department is basically handing out those bursaries.
Definitely.
How do you identify your candidates?
The candidates, you identify them as they pass at school. Others, they make the application. Others, we identify them. But we are also identifying them for the short skills within agriculture.
Absolutely.
The president has called the blue economy, so we need to grow the economy in water, both the marine and the fresh water, what we call aquaculture. In South Africa, it has not been a culture to farm fish, to plow fish.
Yes, yes.
That's why we're in Limpopo last week, because Limpopo is growing a fish called tilapia, and we need to work with them. That fish has been already ordered by the Iranians. They want 500 tons a month. We can't produce it at the present moment, so we're working hard to make sure that we fulfill that order.
Deputy, before I let you go very quickly, what are you doing to bring your department to the people? I mean, a lot of people don't understand what the whole department really does, quickly.
Now they do. We have a lot of imbizos. The minister has been moving around, mostly Free State and Eastern Cape. Have been moving around Limpopo and KZN. We address 1,000 people. So they are beginning to be part of agriculture. The only thing, we need to bring young people and like yourself to come. Absolutely. The only thing that you won't do is a pedicure. You see pedicure in agriculture because we need to touch ground and soil all the time. But we are inviting young people to come and join us.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Deputy. Let's have a look at what the people at home are saying about this particular topic. Mbendulo Mkako says, how can the Minister's Department assist small farmers in Saldanha Bay that are farming goats? Very quickly, Deputy.
Yes, Saldanha Bay and goats. Goats is becoming one of the big projects that we'll be working on them. Surely he will be able to reach one of our offices, and we would like to talk to them, and because it's one area that has not been very famous.
Explored, yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you have it, Mpendulo. Tex Revolta says, will there be money to import maize and other food, Deputy?
We have no choice. We'll have to find it. Otherwise, there will be no food.
All right, Justin Limpetlo says it's going to be about food prices, especially when importing on the devastated rand. And last but not least, Jennifer Marsh says nothing really. It's karma for paying their employees peanuts. Really, it's a taste of their own medicine. Can we really think about
farmers? Sometimes are really not doing very good. They are not doing justice with the farmers. Hence, the Minister of Labour moves with us trying to deal with is a labor issue. As agriculture, we also work together to say to farmers, farmers doing very good. There are bad farmers. So we need to talk to those to try and upgrade them and say that's not the way of treating human beings.
Deputy, we're going to bring you here in January to tell us about some of the top projects on the agenda as we head into 2016. Thank you so much for your time, and do enjoy your festive season. That was the Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, the Honourable Mr. Bheki Cele, taking us through the department's plans for transformation in 2016. Do stay tuned for more Media Monitor after the short break.
But it was like the idea that he's trying to carry this amazing nation with him. And this was like the little bit like a tip of Africa. And then I have compasses in the ocean or mazes, which I put in lots of my pictures. And it's really asking which way to go, or how to find happiness, how to find peace, how to, so it's asking questions, but hopefully making the world more beautiful so people would feel better about it.
We think it's so fitting for international visitors to be greeted by this aspirational piece. And we also think it's fitting to unveil this piece on International Human Rights Day in honor of everything that our dear Tata Madiba stood for and in honor of everything that he did not only for South Africa but also for the world.
Welcome back. My guest for the rest of the hour now is Mr. Vose Thembandima. He's the Acting Deputy Director General Cultural Heritage in the Department of Arts and Culture. Sir, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Good morning to you and good morning to all the listeners and viewers at home.
All right. Well, having signed an audiovisual co-production agreement with his counterpart in the Netherlands, Arts and Culture Minister Nathi Mthethwa sat down with the SABC to talk more about the economic impact it will have on the sector and the Dutch ties with South Africa and its heritage. SABC News journalist Nozintombi Mia and cameraman Max Silotolo filed this report.
Thank you, Minister Nathi Mthethwa, in the portfolio for arts and culture. Can you tell us how will this agreement with the Netherlands ultimately benefit the people of South Africa?
Well, it will go a long way because it touches mainly the audiovisual. We're looking here at the nodal point for economic growth and unleashing that economic potential in the sector, in this creative economy for us. So film industry is quite critical. If you look at how other countries have grown, both in terms of their own cultures and the value of their cultures and their arts and the economic growth which film industry has created, it's enormous.
The Dutch have a very long history with South Africa that spanned centuries, but it's largely been acrimonious. How are you hoping that this particular cultural agreement will help to smooth out relations going forward?
We are writing our story right now. We're correcting the distortions of the past, both which happened within our shores and beyond our national borders. You would recall that on the 30th of November, we launched this month, December, as a reconciliation month. And with facts on the table, bombarded South Africans with what has been known as the so-called Anglo-Boer War, to say, but this is a South African war, because it's Anglo-Boer War only when you exclude black people, when you exclude Africans who also suffered the same fate in the concentration camps, who suffered during the war and so on. So we're correcting all those. We are in agreement with some of the historians here in Netherlands that it was a distortion that South Africa's history started in 1652. Can be. We are told that the Cape was discovered, South Africa was discovered and its people. How do we discover people?
All right, so what do you think, how important is such an agreement for South Africa?
I think it's very important for South Africa as a developing country to work with countries that are much more advanced in terms of technology and all those kinds of things. So I think that this is going to be very beneficial to South Africa, more particularly to those who are involved in filmmaking in the country.
Absolutely. Now bringing it closer to home now. The principles and values of reconciling for a better South Africa. Mr. Ndima, do you think those values are still existent in our current democracy?
I think they are. They are. Maybe we just have to say that the values of reconciliation are embedded in our constitution. If you look at our constitution, the first thing that it does in the preamble of the constitution, it begins by saying that yes, we do have to recognize the injustices of the past, but also we need to move forward in a manner that says we forgive those who actually perpetrated atrocities so that we can have a country that is working, the country that can move forward. Because if we were to engage in pathological digging of the past, we will be caught up in that, and there's not going to be any progress and development in our country.
With that said, do you think that we're an equal and united nation at this stage, Mr. Ndima?
I think it would be premature to talk about equality when we are coming from a past, we're emerging from the past of deep divisions. You're not talking about a couple of years, but you're talking about centuries, you're talking about decades. So it's something that we have to work on to reduce inequalities within the South African citizens. Unity also, it's one of the things that we have to work towards. And I think that we already have the infrastructure for that. If you look at some of the symbols and icons that we have in our country, we can work around those. I'll just talk about, for instance, the national flag.
Go ahead, Bob.
The national flag, it's one of those symbols that were forged in 1994. If you look at the national anthem as well, it's a combination of anthems that were belonging to erstwhile enemies, but it was made to be one as a symbolic of a vision to become one nation. So I just think that we do have those icons that we can just mobilize around to ensure that we are a united country.
Look, Mr. Ndima, race relations in the country are quite a contentious subject, and they also need a lot of debate. People sweep it under the carpet, but racism is still alive. How do we move forward, as you said, to try and get over those past injustices against us?
I think that you have correctly indicated that I think that these matters need to be put on the table.
Absolutely.
I can just talk about the department's program currently.
That's what
we have community conversations that are happening throughout the country, where we have all people just coming around discussing very much pertinent issues that affect our society. We have had 9 conversations. I'll just talk about the conversations that we have had as the heritage unit of the department, which was triggered by the Roads Must Fall statue.
Yes.
And this actually touched on the raw nerve of some of the sections of our population. Now, we saw that as an opportunity to sit down and discuss about the nature of the heritage landscape that we would like to see, because there are those who say, but you still have got those symbols that are representatives of the pre-1994 that were there to legitimize the old order. Do we still have to have those? Can't we have new ones that are actually inclusive, that all South Africans will appreciate because they are actually as a result of a democratic dispensation? So I think those are the key debates that we need to have in our country, honestly and openly, so that we find one another, we understand people's anxieties, people's aspirations, people's likes and dislikes. I think we need to engage in that. But also I think that if we are talking about reconciliation, we need to just go beyond black and white.
Absolutely.
We need to start from the family to clan to cultural, and then everyone. When we talk about reconciliation, we tend to then talk about black and white people, and yet deep-seated issues among families, among tribal groupings, among cultural groupings, clans, and all those kinds of things. So those are the things that we just have to go beyond as we discuss reconciliation.
Mr. Ndima, look, on that note, according to the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation's latest barometer survey, it says that South Africans feel that race relations in the country have either deteriorated or stayed the same. What is your view on that?
Look, they could be right. They could be right. But I think what is important is when we've got that information,
let's use it
what do we do? Yes, I mean, that's what we need to then work on it, see how we then come up with programs that will ensure that we bring our society together.
What do you think is still missing, Mr. Ndima? Why are people just not gelling together?
Look, there could be a number of reasons. I mean, people still keep some deep scars about what happened in the past.
So they haven't forgiven.
They haven't kind of just come to terms with this in a true sense of the word. If there are people who disappeared, there are people who still have got family members who disappeared. As you would know, that NPA is still working on the people who disappeared. So you can't then expect people to just be fine when there are still those issues. So we'll just have to ensure that we give it some time. It will take some time for people to really forgive. But also, you should look at the other side. There are those people who feel that their spaces have been encroached because of the transformative measures that have been brought on board.
Mr. Ndim, hold that thought. You know we're going to continue shortly after this break. Do stay with us.
Of the convictions, the court sent out a very strong message that corruption will not be tolerated. We have one matter, for example, where a police official was convicted after he smuggled 4 parcels of dagga into the prison and received 100 rand for his services from the complainant, and the accused sentenced that person to 8 years imprisonment.
You are watching Media Monitor. Welcome back. Remember, you can still share your views on Twitter on our discussions. Now, December marks Reconciliation Month here in South Africa. The public holiday was instituted back in 1994 and has significance to a number of South African cultures. It also celebrated as the anniversary of the founding of Umkhonto weSizwe, the armed wing of the ANC in 1961. But in earnest, South Africans are encouraged to use the month to reach out to one another as as the country continues to work together to build a united and prosperous nation. We're now very pleased to be joined by the Honorable Reverend Frank Chikane on the line, and I'm still with Mr. Vusithemba Ndima, who's right here in studio, and they are both here talking to us about reconciliation and how important it is for South Africans to reconcile. Reverend Frank Chikane, Senior Vice President of the South African Council of Churches and President of AFM International, played a very significant role in bringing the Conscript Generation and June 16 Foundation together. Both groups had separate talks with Chikane about their pain, healing and need for counseling. Chikane said most South Africans had not acknowledged the need for healing from both sides of the spectrum. A very good morning to you, Reverend, and welcome to Media Monitor. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, and good morning to your listeners and the colleague from Arts and Culture.
Reverend, what led you to take action in joining these two groups after 40 years?
You know, as fate would call it for other people, and this would be providence for me and God's plan, that I was asked for an interview by Peter Bezaidenhout, who was doing a PhD study on the conscript generation. And after that interview, he said to me, I'm so traumatized after interviewing the conscript generation and the issues he has picked up from there. And that's where the discussion started. And they felt strongly that they are alienated. The country they fought for is governed by people they were fighting. Namibia, where they fought, is governed by the people they fought. They are confused. No one really said to them, now we have got a new South Africa, how do you handle this new situation? And some of them are bitter. Some paid a price because they also got hurt in the war. And so they felt they have not had their own TRC, which means it's an unfinished business. And then it became clear to me that the national reconciliation we've been talking about was really a political national reconciliation. Leaders coming together to find a way of not continuing with the war. And we called it reconciliation. But in fact, it never went down to the people in terms of what needs to happen. That's why our national days become, Africans or blacks only. In national days, even on a day of reconciliation, we don't bring whites and blacks together, Indian colors, to be able to construct a new society. And so they asked me whether or not I can assist them to meet the people they were fighting with on the other side. And I went to the June 16 Foundation because that was the most organized form of that. And they agreed, after quite some discussions, to meet the conscript generation. We have had the meeting twice, on the 16th of October and 23rd of November. And the amazing thing is that you are now beginning to see reconciliation in its true form, where Afrikaner former soldiers come and say, we want to make peace with you, we want to ask for forgiveness for what we did, we were conscripted and deployed and fought not because we made a choice. And we're doing it under a particular ideology we're meant to believe. Now we realize that that was not right and that we hurt people on the other side. We are here to ask for forgiveness. But they are not only asking for forgiveness, they are asking also to say sorry and say forgive us, but we don't want to do all that only. We want to go beyond and repair the damage. It means reparation.
Reverend.
And they call it social justice, to make sure that there is social justice. Remember, most whites in this country are happy to have peace and call it reconciliation.
Absolutely.
Leave them to do what they want to do and continue with their lives.
Look, Reverend, if I can just get in there before I let you go very quickly. I mean, looking at the current issues that are currently grappling our democracy, what then is the responsibility of our leaders in making sure that the whole nation moves towards that reconciliation stage?
That's precisely what we are doing. We are saying this is now the first building blocks of a real reconciliation. And the churches got involved because these people belong to the churches. They belong in one church or another. So we have both whites and blacks in the churches. In August, we made sure that the churches with a substantial number of African-speaking people meet together, the church leaders, to say most of those people who were conscripted belong to their churches. Will they support it? And the Dutch Reformed Church went to its synod to get a support to say, we will support him. So this is a new development that has never happened, and it starts from the grassroots up.
Thank you,
and what we are asking is for the leaders to support it.
Thank you so much, Reverend. That was Reverend Frank Chikane. He's the Senior Vice President of the South African Council of Churches and President of AFM International on the line there. What do you think about that, sir?
It's a very beautiful concept.
Absolutely, yes.
Because I fully agree with Reverend Chikane that the reconciliation was more of a high-level kind of intervention, but it needed to cascade to all the structures of the society. And I think it's also the approach that is being adopted that says it's not just going to be government that drives the processes of reconciliation, but you would need civil society structures to support reconciliation, to engage in conversation, in very courageous conversations about the past and about how we can then move forward as one nation.
And what's our responsibility as citizens, Baba?
I think it's very important for the citizens of this country to participate.
It begins with us.
Yes, to participate in whatever discussions that are about reconciliation. Not just about reconciliation, but about all the things that affect us as a society. For instance, you're looking at, currently we have got the social cohesion advocates that were appointed by the ministry in the department. They are actually conducting all these conversations with different communities, with different societies, in order to ensure that we are able to share a common vision. And because it's only when we have a common vision that we can work together.
All right, and before I let you go, sir, what are you doing for Reconciliation Day on the 16th?
The Reconciliation Day is happening in PE, Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University. It's going to be, in fact, the day before that, on the 15th, there's going to be a community conversation which will be characterized by discussion with the Khoisan communities, and then the following day is going to be the president of the country addressing the nation. And of course, with all the kind of festivities that you can always expect.
Absolutely, it's going to be a fun day out in Port Elizabeth, but it's so far, Babundim. I don't think I can make it there on Wednesday. But let's have a look at what people at home are saying about our conversation today. Matlodi Malope says, how is it possible to reconcile with injustice? Need to remedy injustices, not reconcile. What do you think about that, Mr. Ndin? Very quickly.
Yes, as part of remedying the injustices, we remedy the injustices in order to move to a step forward, which is reconciliation. It's true that you can only reconcile when you have also done some redress.
Absolutely.
So redress is very important as a way towards that ultimate reality of reconciliation that we are all looking forward to.
All right, thank you so much. Juan Kutse says, no, not while kids are brought up to hate or blame other ethnic groups for their injustices. Until then, no one is truly free. My line says, the fact that we can't change the past and yet it is still the talk of today due to the effect it has made from generation to generation. And last but not least, Sibusiso says, of course, it's hold those who were there before, but those who were born now, they don't even know where the thunders. All right, I think he says where they originate from. Mr. Ndima, thank you so much, sir, for joining us here on Media Monitor. And of course, we'll see you on Reconciliation Day. Let me thank our guests for partaking in our discussion this morning. That was another exciting and informative edition of your favorite program, Media Monitor. We were broadcasting to you live from our SABC studios here in Auckland Park. Do join us again next week, Sunday, for another jam-packed edition of Media Monitor. I'm Alicia Jali. This is SABC News. Do enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Goodbye.